Okay. Uh, just a minute.
Sir, am I visible?
Yeah, yeah. You are. We are all good.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible also. Just wait for the. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Uh, yeah. So we are starting, and as we are live. Uh, okay. Dot on time as always. It's 6 o'clock, and today we are joined by Dr. Uma Hariharan. Madam is an associate professor in anesthesiology at Dr. RML Hospital and Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. Madam completed her MBBS from AFMC and postgraduate from Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. She is a fellow in onco-anesthesia, regional anesthesia, interventional chronic pain management and palliative care. She is also a diplomat of European Society of Anesthesiology and diploma in hospital management. And she is reviewer of several reputed journals like IJA, JO, ACP, BMC, IJA, and many other, and on editorial board of many other journals. Today she will be talking on research methodology, importance of title aspects and keywords. So over to Dr. Uma, ma'am, all yours. Thank you for joining us.
A very, very good evening to all the audience out there. I'm extremely grateful to Dr. Anil Sharma and the entire TAS Society for giving me this opportunity. I'm here to speak on a very, very vital topic, especially in today's times, because now is the season of new joining postgraduate students, and all of them will now be bogged down by the idea of choosing their thesis topics. And plus, this topic is something which is relevant always, because each and every person has that immense desire to publish his or her research work. So now today I shall be talking about the importance of title, abstract, and keywords in this very useful session on research methodology. Now, first, I will deal with the title. Now, what do you understand by title? Title means the heading of any research paper or thesis, because this title is the one which is read first and the most. So, there are four important goals for title presentation. Number one, it should predict the content of the paper accurately. It should be interesting to the reader, reflect the tone of the writing, and contain important keywords which can be easily locatable when you do a search. Now, the purpose of the title is very simple. It should draw the attention of the reader instantaneously. On reading the title, the reader or the prospective reader should know that yes, this is something which is going to be very, very useful for me, very, very interesting for me. And secondly, the title should imbibe or inculcate further interest in the reader to read the entire manuscript, to know what exactly is written. Because what we must have seen is that most of the times we just read the title and forget about it. Hence, it should motivate him to read the abstract as well as the entire manuscript. As I told you, titles are always read first and always read the most. A title must be informative, it must be both concrete and definitive, it must be concise, especially it must adhere to the journal limitations and descriptions in the form of word and character limits, and it should reflect the core message of your writing. For example, if you are describing something about a desflurane vaporizer, it should not describe something about the ether anesthesia delivery systems. It should be specific to what you are writing. And you must understand that titles and abstract must always be complementary. It should never differ from each other. Again, coming to the title itself, as I previously told you, it should be eye-catching, it should be simple, it should be accurate, it should state the subject fully, as well as most importantly, it must indicate the study design. What do you mean by study design? Study design means what kind of study you are going to undertake, whether it is a randomized controlled trial, whether it is an observational study, whether it is a prospective study design, or whether it is a retrospective design, or it is just a simple observation of facts, or some kind of comparative evaluation. It can also indicate whether it is blinded, whether it is non-blinded, single-blinded, double-blinded, triple-blinded. All these things can be highlighted or mentioned in the title. Again, it should be grammatically correct, especially in terms of English language. Now, we must understand what we need to avoid in a title. This is more important to know than what exactly we need to write. Things which should be avoided are abbreviations and acronyms. Like, for example, if we say only OLED display, most of the people may not know what is OLED. Hence, you must elaborate that OLED means optical light emitting diode, and hence you must say it fully. Do not use literary titles. We are not using poetic devices here. Avoid using interrogatory or exclamatory titles. For example, using a question mark. This is especially not recommended when you are mentioning a research study or an original article. Do not use capital letters. Most of us write most of these titles in capital fonts. That is not required. Please avoid unnecessary nouns, words, and jargon that will only add to confusion and irritate the reader or the prospective, even the reviewer who is going to review your article for possible publication. Now, I would cite a few examples of possible titles. Now, these are all published articles and sometimes even reviewed articles. For example, this first example, does vaccinating children and adolescents with inactivated influenza virus inhibit the spread of influenza in unimmunized residents of rural communities? Now, it contains many unnecessary words, and it actually doesn't give a proper idea what exactly we are trying to find out with the influenza vaccine. Now, another title which is which can be a corollary of the above title, influenza vaccination of children, randomized control trial. This again doesn't give enough information or make the title interesting. A shorter and a more effective title would be effect of child influenza vaccination on infection rates in rural communities, a randomized controlled trial. Now, this would be more effective if we add the blinding, and the rural community can also be mentioned, whether it is of a developing nation or a developed nation or any particular geographical area, which will make it a little more specific. Wrong or inappropriate titles are the ones which are either too long or too short, with several question marks or text-heavy titles, which can be very difficult for the reader to digest. A title should neither convey too much information nor too little information. There should be no abbreviations. For example, in this this title says, "Why is oxygen more important for life than nitrogen?" This is using a question mark, which is what exactly we need to avoid. Now, another title, anesthesia for TGA patients. Now, who knows what is TGA? Of course, most of us would know that TGA is transposition of great arteries, but it is always better to use the full form. And another thing, this is too short. This does not convey whether this is a review article, whether this is an original article, or whether this is a case report. So it is always better to convey the title in full. Now, another title which is actually not appropriate, systemic lupus erythematosus and long-term effects, a prospective study. What exactly are they trying to study? What is the target population? What are the effects which they are looking at? What is the blinding? Whether this is a randomized control trial or whether this is just an observational study. So they have not been very specific. So very little information is conveyed out here. Now, this is such a huge title that you would definitely be bogged down by reading at the text-heavy title this is giving. Adjuvants produce longer duration of local anesthesia. Comparison of 2 doses of bupivacaine with or without clonidine with regards to intraoperative analgesia. Pain scores post-operative analgesic requirements using ultrasound-guided subclavian perivascular brachial plexus block. by a single dose or continuous catheter techniques. Now I am actually unable to read it. I am actually turning breathless reading this such a huge and too much information. So please do not make titles like this. This is just to prevent you from making such kind of titles. Now coming to another very important topic, that is keywords. Keywords are always mentioned mostly after abstract, and they suggest the words which are used by search engines to narrow down the search of your article. Now, these keywords are nothing but English words or short phrases which capture the essence of the paper, and they are used for cross indexing and retrieval. There are 3 to 10 identifiers which represent main concepts included in the article. They are usually the mesh words, and these words are generally arranged in alphabetical arrangement. So, what can be the possible examples of keywords? If you have this title, mycophenolate versus azathioprine as maintenance therapy for lupus nephritis, the possible keywords for this title could be immunosuppressive drugs, renal lupus, systemic lupus erythematosus. And another example of keywords would be region-specific neuronal degeneration after okadaic acid administration. Now, I am giving you the example of poor keywords as well as better keywords. Now, poor keywords, as you can see, why I say these keywords are poor is because they are very non-specific. For example, the keywords which are cited here are neuron, brain, OA, regional specific neuronal degeneration, and signaling. Now, if you just put in the word neuron or brain, these are such non-specific words with so many drop-down searches which are visible if you search either in the Google engine or PubMed or any other search engine, that you would not get your article cited or your article being visible. But if you use, for example, OA can also be okadaic acid and it can also be osteoarthritis. No one knows what is OA. So better keywords for this kind of title would be neurodegenerative diseases, CA1 region, hippocampal region, neurotoxins, MAP kinase signaling system, and cell death. Now, a little more about keywords. Now, don't get bogged down by how you will choose the keywords. They are nothing but variant terms or phrases that readers are likely to use or search related to the topic. And they are basically full forms of shortened terms or acronyms or abbreviations which can be included. They help the indexers and search engines to find the relevant papers and represent manuscript content and be specific to the topic or field. Now, most of these keywords are mesh words. Mesh is nothing but medical subject headings. These are basically words which are prescribed by the National Library of Medicine USA, controlled vocabulary thesaurus for indexing articles in the Medline and PubMed. Each article citation is associated with a set of mesh terms that describe the content of citation. Now, Mesh provides 2 tools to help authors select mesh descriptors as keywords for articles. Mesh on Demand is tools that can automatically identify relevant mesh terms that text such as abstract or grant summary. Now, this is very important. If your article doesn't even feature in their search, how can you ever hope to get a grant for your research? Now, it uses the natural language processing and the National Library of Medicine's Medical Text Indexer or MTI to find the mesh term. Now, this medical text indexer, as soon as you go to PubMed and to this NLM website, you can get this medical text indexer, and it finds the relevant mesh terms which can help jumpstart finding the mesh terms in your search area. Mesh terms are machine generated by this MTI and do not reflect any human review. Now, again, the mesh continued. They developed in close collaboration among the mesh section, the NLM index section, and the Lister Hill National Center for Biomedical Communications. So when you go to the browser, this browser is very user-friendly. It allows the user to search directly for mesh terms and conduct text word searches of the annotation and scope note fields of records. Now, there are 2 terms which you must know. One is the registry number and the relative registry number, but this we will come to a little later. First, let us understand how you can do this. Go to PubMed, and on the PubMed, there are several drop-down menus wherein you can add your title or your mesh words, which they can verify that whether they fall under the category of the PubMed indexed mesh words. Locate a vocabulary term using any word using the complete expression and select the most specific heading. Then you can start the specific words or short expressions. And then you may consider 2 or 3 terms to best describe the essential subject of your article. Do not enter the complete sentence or article title. If you do that, the results will not be of any use to you. It will not be specific. Now, this is the direct browsing of mesh hierarchy or trees. See, they have given this term, beautiful term, trees, because tree is one huge stem, and then from that there are several branches which are coming. So the same way there is a tree wherein you are entering your words, and then the trees are formed, and these trees are the ones which are reflecting the mesh words. What you have to do is you have to browse the mesh trees, click navigate from the tree top. This is there in the website itself button, and at the top of the mesh browser page, the trees or hierarchical structure of the mesh tree numbers will appear, and then you can view the terms in the contents of broader and narrower concepts. Now, to see a term's location in the hierarchy, click on the heading's tree number entry in the record display. The plus symbol in the hierarchical display indicates that narrower concepts are available by clicking on the link. Now, it must be remembered that the preferred expression is indicated by the label mesh heading and not entry term. So, mesh heading is what you have to see. Now, choosing effective keywords for the manuscript is required for proper indexing, as I previously told you. As an author, you need to provide these words that are tagged by your article so that they get picked up by the research engines and your paper is read by the researchers for wider dissemination of knowledge. Now, what is the use of this? This will definitely help you greater citations. Now, for example, I am there. I want to do a literature search. I want to do some study, or I'm looking out for some articles for giving a presentation. And when I'm doing a literature search, I'm typing some words. Now, for example, if your article doesn't have those words, I will never get shortlisted those articles of yours because they do not contain these mesh words. Most importantly, these mesh words also help in getting new citations and improve the impact factor of the journals. So journals, most of the journals which are indexed, they insist on these kind of words. Now, if you use these words, their impact also improves. Now, 2 freely available tools on the World Wide Web, that is Word Cloud and Mesh on Demand, are very useful for choosing title and keywords, which can be easily obtained on the internet. Now, again, it is very important to know what is wrong in a keyword. Now, again, as I told you for the title, keywords neither be too long nor too short. Now, if the keyword is too short, it will render the search non-specific. The reader or the prospective reviewer will not know what you are trying to search or what you are trying to convey. Now, if the keywords are too long, then again, the articles will not get filtered and your paper will get excluded. For example, if your research is on pediatric diabetes and you use long tail keywords that are relevant to your study, it will be good. But if you just use blood glucose or insulin as keywords, then your paper will be lost in the sea of papers on diabetes, because there are n number of papers available on diabetes. And yours is something which is specific about the use of some particular drug on pediatric diabetes. So it won't figure. Another important thing is, do not waste keywords on words used in your title, because words which are used in your title are separate, and your keywords, if they are separate, your chances of getting cited or your chances of getting included in the search engines will be much more. But of course, both should be relevant to the content of your paper. Now, as I told you, you can perform a keyword search in both Google as well as Web of Science engines before manuscript submission. Please avoid single word keywords. Now, for example, if I just say a single word, anesthesia, a single keyword, anesthesia. Now, this is such a broad term that there will be so many drop down menus and so many articles which can get shortlisted that you will not be able to find a proper keyword. So, proper title. Now, focus on the main topic of your research and your technique or specific methodology. For example, if you want to say total intravenous anesthesia, so please use total intravenous anesthesia as a complete keyword. Use the most specific mesh terms as keywords rather than a broad or general heading. For example, problem-based learning is included under teaching, which is under education. So if you just write education in your keywords, then it won't be of use. It is better to use problem-based learning or medical education technology. Do's and don'ts of abstracts. As I told you, again, you should not use any abbreviation. Short forms are not recognized by these search engines. Do not use words or terms in the title as keywords. And the words in the title are automatically included in the indexes, and keywords serve as additional pointers. So please do not combine both the title and the keywords with the same words. Consider experimental material and techniques and check whether potential applications can serve as keywords, and use specific phenomena or issues as keywords. Again, just a revision of what I was talking about keywords. Mesh terms are official words or phrases selected to represent particular biomedical concepts. Labeling an article, indexers select terms only from official mesh list and never other spellings or variation. Now, spellings also, they are very, very particular. So the American English and the British English can also sometimes create confusion. So you need to be very careful. For instance, an article would not be labeled with the term heart attack because indexers will always use the official mesh term for it, that is myocardial infarction, and not heart attack, which is actually a layman term. So coming to abstract. Abstract is also, I would say, a summary of your entire article. You must make your abstract as attractive as possible, because abstract will convey most of what you want to see in your entire article. So personally, when I was beginning in my research career, initially I always used to read only the title and the abstract. I would never go beyond the abstract unless and until the article is so interesting and so compelling that I go further. So it must contain as much information as possible about both the primary and secondary outcome measures. You should have good prezi writing skills with good judgment regarding the inclusion necessary information and adverse outcomes. You should not mislead the readers, because if you don't mention about the adverse outcomes, the reader would be misguided into believing that your research is absolutely free of all complications. Now, example of an incorrect abstract is where a recent study concluded that venlafaxine use during the second trimester of pregnancy may increase the risk of neonates born small for gestational age. Nowhere in the abstract did the authors mention that these conclusions were based on just 5 cases and 12 controls out of the total sample of 126 cases and 806 controls. So the sample size of these things is so small that the conclusion itself is incorrect. So these kind of errors do occur and they can mislead. So please be specific as well as be inclusive of all the possible outcomes in your abstract. Again, as I told you, it is very important to remember what you should not do in writing an abstract. Please avoid unnecessary information. Things which are not relevant, please don't add. Background should be the shortest. Now this, I will come to the details of writing a structured abstract a little later. For example, in a structured abstract, we need to write the background and aims, wherein we need to write why we are doing this particular study. But that doesn't mean you keep on writing lines and lines on background. So it should be specific and precise. A longer background section means that less space remains for the presentation of the results, which is very unfortunate because the reader is more interested in the results and the conclusion section, because this is what they want to use in their further research. This is just my suggestion that result section should be the longest, method section should be the second longest, and conclusion section should convey all important messages, including adverse outcome. It is always better to add a limitation of your study if possible. As I previously mentioned, the abstract should be succinct with an accurate summary of the paper and the purposes mentioned and the inclusion criteria. It should be independent. Now, this abstract should be a standalone article. Now, this is very important because most journals, for example, most conferences, they only publish the abstract in their conference books or books which are released during these conferences. So it should be actually very succinct. It should state a brief idea of what the key points are, and it should avoid unnecessary detail. Of course, it should be interesting. So 5 salient points which are very important to remember when we write an abstract are this. You must remember by heart: the introduction, the problem statement, the procedures or materials and methods, the results, and the conclusions. Now, as I told you, abstract is the only part probably published in conference proceedings. They do not publish the entire papers. And mostly, this is the only part which is seen by potential referees when invited by an editor. So, if you want to get invited as an editor or a reviewer, or you want to get your article published in an index or a prestigious journal, your abstract must be absolutely spick and span. Again, as I told you, whenever a search engine is made through electronic databases, this is the only part of the paper which is read by the readers who are searching. Most journals set a maximum word limit of 250 to 300 words. An abstract should not contain any citations. Please remember that. The qualities of a good abstract: it should be condensed and concentrated version, sufficiently representative of your paper. Just a summary of the abstract, which I'm just trying to enumerate. It should be detailed, but within the word limit. It should require a good prezi writing skill, and it should not be biased. So see why I say it should not be biased? Because it should always state about the adverse outcomes of your research. It should not only state only the good items of the positive outcomes. The negative outcomes should always be mentioned. And it should give opportunity for the reader to independently assess your conclusions. Now, there are two kinds of abstract: free-flowing or unstructured abstract. Now, these unstructured abstracts are generally given for case reports. Now, the abstracts that are given for letter to editors are generally not published in the journals, but they still do ask for an abstract, because that is how they will make the editors and the reviewers understand that this particular title or this particular article is good enough to be published. A structured abstract, as I told you, 250 to 300 words is the maximum. It follows a particular pattern which is known as the IMRAD pattern. IMRAD is the short form of introduction, material and methods, results, and discussion and conclusions. Now, this is nothing but to state: introduction states the purpose and the background of why you are and how you are going to why you are doing this particular study. Method states the basic procedures, what patients you are going to take, how many patients you are going to take, what is the randomization, what is the type of study, and what is the institutional ethics committee which you are going to do. Then the results, the main findings. Please do not be very elaborate, because results generally have graphs. The main results generally have graphs and histograms and so many other things inside them. But here you can mention the statistical method which is being used. And lastly, the prime conclusions. Now, the most prominent norm for the structure of a scientific journal article of the original research is the IMRAD pattern. It should be short and concise way of structuring a scientific article. Now, coming to background and methods, this is nothing but a brief introduction of what is already known about the subject, which is relevant to the current paper, and what you are trying to find out more on that particular topic, and especially what that paper intends to research. Enough information to highlight what was done in the study and how should be mentioned: study design, clinical diagnosis, sample size, treatment, research instruments, and primary outcome measures can be mentioned. In the results section, number of patients who completed the study, dropout rates. Please remember to mention the dropout rates, because that is how the relevance of your study can be assessed. Results of analysis of primary objective with p-values. Always mention p-values which you have taken. Results of analysis of secondary objectives with p-values is also important. Numerical information about this analysis, mean and standard deviation, is also important to mention. And most importantly, important negative findings and adverse events. Now, coming to the last section, that is the conclusion section of the abstract. It should have 3 elements. Number 1, the primary take-home message. Number 2, additional findings of importance. And lastly, the perspective. This can be the current perspective as well as the future perspective. Now, let me be very blunt in that, because conclusion section must be the most honest section. You must convey what are the findings in a very concise manner, and it should not convey more than what the existing findings are. Please do not mention how authors can express an opinion about the theoretical or practical implications of the finding, but not what has already not been mentioned in your study. It should be brief and it should create an impact on the reader. Now, this is just a table to cite how a structured abstract looks like. The background, which consists of the method, the results, conclusion, and the objective. Basically, the design, the setting, the subjects, the intervention, the main outcome measures, results, conclusions, and the limitations, which are very, very important to cite. Now, I would like to conclude by giving an example of a structured abstract. This is an article which was published by me and my colleagues in Indian Journal of Anesthesia as an original article. Now, this is the title of the article, Cardiac Output Monitoring, a comparative prospective observational study of conventional cardiac output monitor, Vigilio TM, and the new smartphone-based application, Captasia. Now, this title is actually a title where I want to say that this is something which I am doing as an original article. It is a comparative study. It is based on cardiac output monitoring. It is a prospective observational study, and it compares 2 kind of monitors, the Vigilio and the Captasia. So now I would like to mention briefly about the abstract which I had mentioned in this article. Now, if you can see in the abstract, it is very concise. It starts with background and aims. And here I have written what is known about this particular topic and what we are going to do in this particular topic. Now, the results, the material and methods and the results section are there after this. And then after that, lastly, the conclusion keywords. Now you can see that the conclusion and the keywords, they are very, very specific. Conclusion is very, very precise and small. But it has nothing extra than what I want to highlight. An example of an unstructured abstract. This is again an unstructured abstract. Even though unstructured abstracts are not used for research studies or original articles, here it is used, but they are usually used for case reports, okay, and correspondences or maybe letter to editors. So unstructured abstracts, here they have written, this is from a published study itself, they have written the t-test, the statistical analysis and the p-value as well in this abstract. How will the structured abstract of a drug trial look like? Now this, they are very specific. They are stating the objective that they are going to study single large oral dose of vitamin A in treating acute shigellosis in Bangladesh in children. And they have stated the design. Now the design is randomized, double-blind, controlled clinical trials. So they have been extremely specific what they are going to do, the blinding, the randomization, and the controlled clinical trial. The setting also they have told that it is in a Dhaka hospital. That is, it has to be a tertiary center. This is the capital of Bangladesh, International Center for Diarrheal Diseases and Research. And then they are also citing how many children they are taking, the age group they are taking, what kind of diagnosis these patients are having, bacteriologically proven shigellosis, and what is the exclusion criteria. That is, they should not have any signs of vitamin A deficiency. And then the randomization, how many randomized and what is the control group. Then they are also citing the intervention, what they're exactly going to do. They are going to give single oral dose, that is also they are specifying. The dose is also specified. Then they are also going to give vitamin E, that is also specified. Then they're also going to give not only vitamin E to the control group, that is also they are specifying. So now coming to the salient points which need to be followed in an abstract. Just a summary of what I had enumerated till now. No extra message to be conveyed in abstract which is not present in the main body. Please do not copy sentences from the text, because that sometimes puts the reader off or sometimes the reviewer doesn't like it. Do not use references and abbreviations in the abstract. Please mention the primary outcome measures and the major statistical conclusions or statistical outcomes which are there. The common errors which are there in abstract include inconsistency. Now, data, you have stated something in the abstract and that in the text is something else. So this is actually very misleading. The readers and the reviewers, they do not like it. And please do not omit anything which is of relevance and importance in the abstract. Errors can lead to rejection and frequent revisions. Even for unstructured abstract, it helps to prepare a structured format and then write in paragraph format, as I previously cited in the unstructured format. In the results section, for example, it is bad writing to state response rates differed significantly between diabetic and non-diabetic patients. So better the sentence would be to state the exact measures, the exact values. The response rate was higher in non-diabetic than in diabetic, 49% versus 30%, and the p-value was less than 0.01, which is statistically significant. So this will give a greater impact, and the reader or the reviewer or the journal would be better interested to cite your article. Now, manuscript revision. Sometimes your article comes back for revision of various things. At that point, please always look back into the abstract, because when you do corrections in your main abstract, it should always be reflected in the, when you do corrections in your main text, it should always be reflected in the abstract. Please see for accuracy or abstract when you do corrections. If any additions or deletions are made, please make the same additions and deletions in your abstract. Now, to conclude, a very concise summary of what I wanted to convey. Number one, most importantly, please have a very good title. It should be catchy, it should be informative, and it should be attention drawing. I would like to mention a personal experience in this. When I was getting an oncosurgical head and neck cancer surgery done, the tube, the endotracheal tube got cut by the saw of the surgeon during that surgery, and we suddenly lost control of the airway. And I wanted to publish that article, and I just mentioned initially tube transection during head and neck surgery. Now it came back to me for revision, and a better title which I incorporated later on was, what will happen when oxygen supply to the patient gets suddenly cut during head and neck radical cancer surgery? Now, this is a more specific topic, a little more interesting topic, and something which can draw the attention of the reader. Yes, this is something which we have not encountered. Let us read what exactly happened in that case. So this is again important to have a very good catchy title. Coming to keywords, please use mesh words, facilitating indexing and easy retrieval. Abstract, please follow the inbred pattern. Structured and unstructured abstracts, it should be accurate, concise, and follow the journal instructions and format. And please highlight the major findings and always mention the accurate outcomes, especially the negative and adverse outcomes. Please be honest. Thank you very, very much for your patient listening. Happy writing and publishing. I am extremely thankful to Task Society for this opportunity. Kindly accept sincere gratitude for this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a real good talk on a topic which is like geeks for many who want to publish or how to initiate publications in their careers early in this. I really feel that this will go in a long way to help all these students as well as some of the faculties who are there It is really in detail that you have explained what are the pitfalls, where to improve, and how to make your paper more acceptable and all. Thank you very much for this presentation. If any
Thank you, sir.
queries,
Thank you so much. It's the pleasure is always mine.
no, ma'am. It's really good to have you on our academic platform, and looking forward to more such participation from you. This topic was regarding very like publications and all that. Waiting for more topics coming from you, and you definitely
Definitely,
will get
sir.
more.
Definitely looking for more from your end. I will definitely like to contribute in your
Uh,
academic
you are
platform.
very well known in the Delhi academic circles, so TAS is really very happy to have you on our platform, and definitely I feel that the members will be
Sir, in
benefited
fact,
by.
I am very impressed by your efforts.
No, we are there to provide platform, madam. So that's it for the day, and really looking forward to more such presentations. Thank you very much, ma'am. And any query, you kindly
Thank you,
post
sir.
us on
Thank you so
Facebook.
much. Good day and good night. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Bye, sir.
So we do this
Bye,
video, and
everyone.
that's
Bye,
the end.
audience. Happy writing and
Thank you.
publishing.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, ma'am. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.